All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to yet another event of ARTC, Army Road to College. I am Pia, and today we have our segment, which is Women in STEM. And we have our speaker, which is Omer Miraz, and she is a material engineer, and of course, an Army. And she is awake. It's super late in her place, and I'm like, the devotion. I love this. So we truly appreciate you for being here today, Omer. And thank you so much for giving us information on this. We look forward to it.
Yeah, I hope that at 2 a.m. I can still make sense.
Of course, you got this. No problem.
So as Bianca said, my name is Omer Rose. I'm sure some of you have seen me online. Maybe some of you have seen me on my YouTube channel, Planet Army. Hopefully soon there'll be a doctor before that name. I'm in the home stretch of getting my PhD. Hopefully next week submitting it. And what I do is I'm doing a PhD in material engineering, and my research is centered around materials that are called thermoelectric materials. And what they do is they convert temperature difference into electricity, which basically means, you know how every electrical device we have has excess heat. For example, our laptop heats up, our refrigerator heats up, phone heats up, and that heat is going just to the environment and no one uses it. And there are special materials that can take that heat and convert it into electricity. Basically what happens is that you take material, you hold it between a hot side and a cold side, and the electrons near the hot side get the energy and they start dancing and they go all the way to the cold side. And when you have electrons moving, you have electricity. And there are other materials who do the exact opposite. The electrons go from the cold side to the hot side, and that way you get a circulation and you get electricity. And it's basically making materials a lot more efficient and devices a lot more efficient. A lot of places use these materials. You can find them in NASA, for example. When NASA sends rovers to space, because they need something that won't break, that won't have any problem, that so many people, that that is efficient for a very long time. They send rovers to space with thermoelectric materials. One time they tried to do it with photovoltaic materials, which convert light into electricity, and that rover ended up falling in a shadow of a mountain on Mars, and it's been stuck there ever since. So that's why they use materials like what I work on and the materials that I develop. And you can also find it in some more home devices, such as wine coolers, for example. Like wine fridges convert electricity into temperature difference. It's the exact same thing, but the other way. And they take that electricity and my computer, right? They take that electricity, they convert it into a temperature difference, so the wine itself is kept cold, but the other side of the fridge will be very hot if you try it. They're very common for green energy devices, for like when you build a home that's supposed to have a zero carbon footprint. You can use these materials to cool down the house. So overall, very, very important materials for green energy. This is just like a bit about me and what I've been doing for the past 7 years. But I've been thinking with myself how I'm gonna present this to you and what exactly I'm gonna talk about, because everyone is from a different country, and each country has different issues with women in STEM. And I didn't want to depress it too much, but I also didn't want to make this too the other way. So um, I found some middle ground here. And I'm gonna start with the short story that happened to me. And don't be panicked. It has a happy ending, so don't worry. Um, Basically, because of my PhD, because of all the work I've done, I've been doing present. I like my work has been in academic journals and published. I have 4 academic papers published. I've presented in 17 conferences all over the world. I got scholarships. Like I've not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty successful in my field. And 2 years ago, I went to a conference in France, in Normandy, and I was 33, and I got to present in the biggest conference in my field. It's a conference that I've been to before. It keeps moving from country to country. So once it was in the US, and one time it was in Korea, for example, and at that year it was in France, and it's the biggest conference in my field. It was the first time I was invited to present there. Usually I had the poster, but this time I was doing a full-on presentation. I was really, really excited, and I was really nervous for it because no matter how many times you practice presentations, you never know exactly how it's going to go until you actually do it. And every time it's different. Every time it feels different, even if you say the exact same thing. That specific conference, I had so many reasons to be excited for, because not only was I presenting in the biggest conference in my field, the people that were there, two of them were my advisor and my dad. My dad is also a material engineer, and he came to that conference. I was double excited. And not only that, while I was walking in, I thought like it's going to be just one room full of people, but it turned out that the presentation was actually being recorded and presented in a second room. So it was 2 rooms full of people. And while I was walking into my chair, I saw that there were people from NASA, from JPL there. I was really a nervous wreck, and I was really excited. And the whole thing was like built up really well for me, because I was sitting there, and all the presentations before me were talking about the same materials that I was going to talk about, but they missed a key element. And one presentation passed, second presentation passed, third presentation passed, and then this guy like raises his hand and he asks, he says, "Why aren't you talking about something like this key element?" And they said, like, "This is really important, this material. How can you not speak of them?" And they like started an answer. And then it was my turn to present. And I was like, "Oh, remember that thing that no one talked about? Here, I'm going to talk about it and show you just how important it is." And to this day, even though I've done other presentations after it, this was my best presentation ever. Like, I was so proud of it. I was doing it, I was hyped. Everyone was listening. You can see people were like getting into it. It was dynamic. She's like, sometimes you stutter and things don't work out, but this time it was perfect. I was seriously best presentation ever. So I was finishing, and then the Q&A starts, and I was really proud of myself, and I was happy that out of all the presentations I was making, these were the ones where my dad and my advisor and the people from NASA were there to see. And I was so proud. And then this first person is asking a question, like he gets the mic, and it's an old man. I'm on purpose not saying older. Older seems too respectful. He's an old man, and he's like, "Oh, you did a very good presentation. Everyone was quiet and listening, but of course they're going to be quiet and listening because a very beautiful girl is standing before them." And he probably meant it as a compliment, but I was stunned. I I had to stand there with this fake smile on my face, and I was like I just gave a 15-minute presentation that was amazing. Okay, how dare you? All you have to say is compliment my looks. Like I felt I felt hurt and it sucked. And again, like you have to stand there and smile, and you could see like the awkwardness in the room immediately. Like everyone were uncomfortable by that comment. And he asked my question then, and I don't even remember if I'm pretty sure I didn't even answer like what he asked. And then someone else asked, and that was fine. And I was slowly like shaking out of it, I guess, recovering. And yeah, and it stopped. It felt like so demeaning. And I walked like it was over. Sorry, it was over, and I was walking out, and then this guy like came up to me, and he's like this like okay, this man is old. Like I can, it's not. No one has that mentality anymore. People know better now. But then this guy approached me, and he's like this 26-year-old douchebag from this fancy U.S. university, and he wasn't in my presentation, but he starts mansplaining something to me, and I tried to like tell him, well, he was also like saying the wrong things, and he was making a mistake, and I tried to fix it, but he was so condescending, he wasn't even willing to listen. And I just like I got out. I went with my parents to eat. Then I got back to there was a gala dinner that night, so I went back. I got dressed. I went back to the gala, and the story is continuing. There is a continuation to this, but I'm gonna cut it here for now, so you don't get to know how it ends yet. Um, but that sort of mentality is something. It's never quite that blunt. Usually people don't just say to your face, but it's definitely something that happens from time to time, and it's never fun. Um, and it's not necessarily something that you would encounter or that would happen, but it's there. Like one time I went on an elevator and some guy looked me up and down and said, "What are you studying?" I said, "What do you think?" Like it wasn't the engineering like building. So what do you think? And he said, "Oh, you must be studying like literature, or arts, or something." Like there's no way it's computer visible to each other. He said, like, "There's no way you're studying engineering." And I immediately just, like turned around and walked out. But it's so frustrating when stuff like that happens because from time to time it happens. But obviously it's not all bad, and every place is different, and you can encounter all sorts of different things instead. And it can be amazing and it can be great. And I'm going to talk about how amazing and great being a woman is, but not gay. Um, every country and every place, like I said, I've been to a lot of conferences and I got to see a little bit in different parts of the world what it's like. And for example, I went to Korea, and there this woman who's in charge, I can't remember if she was like the head of the Korean University for Women or just the engineering department there. But she came to me and we were talking. We were talking for like 15 minutes. This wasn't like a 2-minute conversation. And she was like, "You have to come and see the campus. It's so beautiful." And the only thing she had to say about this university is how beautiful the campus is. When instead of talking about like how good it is, how good the women are. And you see that mentality in a lot of places that uh, separate the women from men. And there are studies that show that women, when they're not in male company, they do better at school. They get better grades. They are more innovative. They're more creative. They think differently in a good way, right? We need diversity. And by separating them, if you live in a country that has that mentality that women aren't equal or aren't treated equal. You do the opposite. By separating women, you don't let the men see just how amazing women are, and they don't get a chance to treat them as equals because you separated them. And you could see that, like, that we know that in a lot of countries, women, after they give birth, they do all the work. They study hard in school, they get good grades, they go to university, they get a good job, but then they get married and then they have kids, and then they're expected to all of a sudden leave that life behind and stay home. And that just completely cancels what you did all your life until that moment, in a way. And people, like, I think women today, a lot of them aren't willing to do that anymore. And if men can give us a platform to do it, then it's a problem, and it's something that we should strive to fix. And you see, you have that on one hand, and then you have, like, in the US, people in engineering department. Sometimes they have like one girl in the entire material engineering department, the entire mechanical engineering department. And that can be so lonesome and so hard. And sometimes you start and there are a lot of women there at the first year. But then by the second year, it's like half the number. By third, it might be even less. And it's because either you didn't believe in yourself. Obviously, you can start something and decide that it's not for you. That's always an option, and it happens for everyone. You'll find that a lot of people, when they start school, they don't know what actually they want to study. So it can be very discouraging right at the back. But if it is something you want to study, sometimes it can be discouraging just being alone, or having society tell you, oh, that's what you're studying? Why do you need to work that hard? Why do you need to do that? And it grades on you and it breaks you, and it can get very difficult. I know that. But like I said, I don't want to discourage you because I chose to do it and it's amazing and I have zero regret. There are a lot of amazing stuff about being a woman in STEM. And I think it's very important to be a woman in STEM, to be, well, for one, be educated, but we all know that as the world keeps going, like, most families can't sustain anymore on one income. And having STEM puts you on a, like, forget for a second that you should love what you study always. Like, if you don't love STEM, don't go to STEM. But if you do love it, it does set you on a path for financial independence, and that's important whether you're in a relationship or not. Because this world is crazy. We've seen what happened, and how insane it can be. And being financially stable and not reliant on someone is extremely important. And STEM gives you a better option to do that. So I think it's very important even from that aspect. Now that I've completely depressed you about things that can go wrong, I want to share with you a bit about my story and how I got into STEM, what's been my experience. So for now, I told you, like, what I've seen as an outsider, but I didn't talk about what it was like for me. And I've always been a child that loved math. Like, math was my favorite subject. I was never really into dolls. Not that there's anything wrong with being into dolls. My friends tried to force me to play Barbies, and I would instead, like, they had this laundry machine that had a button, and I would keep pressing that button because I love pressing buttons. Or I would go and play with their brother instead on the computer. And then I'm 35, so computers back then were like, those huge machines that you had to code to play a game, and it was in green and black. There were no colors yet, but it was fun. And so that's how I started. And when I was in second grade, I really wanted to take an electronic after school class, and my mom wouldn't let me. I still hold it over her head. She knows it was a mistake. Honestly, the class was really poor quality, and that's why she didn't let me. But I always hold it, like I remind her about it every once in a while, or I used to. Um, but yeah, I've always been into science, always like math. I My dad was an engineer, and he always like I would be that girl who always says, "Why does this happen? Why does this happen?" And he would always indulge me and answer. And my mom, she was a teacher, so she was really encouraging of that as well. And when I got into high school, I started learning computer science and physics, and I was really good into programming. I had a wonderful uh, computer science teacher, and he really took to me. We actually had two classrooms, each with 15 people. In my classroom, I was the only girl. In the other one, there were three girls, and he really liked me and thought like I could do stuff. He even started. He had a startup company and took me as a student there, like internship work there. But I learned a lot, and he sent me to this like extra coding class with another guy classmate, and it was really fun, and I learned a lot. But then because he went to that startup, he left, and we got a new teacher. And that teacher, the first time we had a test, I asked him a question. He said, "Oh, you don't need to answer that." And I said, "What do you mean? Like, did I miss something? What do you mean I don't need to answer that?" And he said, "No, no, like you don't need it. It's fine. Don't worry, skip it." So what do you mean? Did like everyone is skipping it? Like I was so confused. I couldn't even grasp what he was saying to me. I said, "What is everyone skipping that question?" He said, "No, you don't have to. Like the other girls in the other classroom didn't do that question either." And I was like, "Hold on, hold on. Like I'm not the best student. I wasn't the best student in high school, but I knew coding very well." And I was like, "No, I'll don't answer my question. I'll figure it out." And I just sat down. I was pissed. I ended up getting a 96 on that test. And I took the test. I showed it to him. I was like, "This is the question. This is the one you," and I got like full score. And I said, "This is the one you didn't want me to do." And he said, "Yeah, no, never mind, never mind." And it was like a complete douche about it, but never mind. He didn't last long in that school, expired, thankfully, because well, I can't remember if I complained or not, but there were other issues that arose, and I was fine. But mostly, like it was completely normal. In my physics class, there were more girls there. I think there were 5 out of 20 or something, or yeah, so like a quarter of the classroom was girls. Um, and then university happened. And unlike most of you, here at university usually starts at, like if you started young, you start at 22 because you volunteer a bit and then you travel a bit and you see the world and you work and only then do you start university. So we start university here very late. And I don't know necessarily that gives you more time to be more aware of yourself, aware of your environment, know yourself better and what you want to study. But it does give you some time to think before immediately going from high school to university. And it also makes the people around you a tad bit more mature. Um, and I knew I was going to study engineering. I decided to add physics to that. So I started with physics and material engineering. I ended up dropping physics because it was too theoretical for me. I need the applicativity of engineering. And when I started, it surprised me, but it turns out that it's been that way for years. I started my um, classroom, my class of material engineering that year was 50% men and women. We were exactly the same. And the year after that, and the year after that, and it turns out that in that department, for the last at least 16 years, it's been equal, men and women, which is crazy. Or is it crazy? It's not crazy. It shouldn't be crazy. But in most places it is. And because we were 50-50, and because it wasn't a big deal, because it was normal, it was like that every year, no one made a big deal out of it. No one immediately like thought of you either as, oh, you got lucky to be here, someone like did some um, networking to get you here, or no one thought, oh, you must be a genius to get in. No, you were seen as an equal, someone that can succeed or fail or mess up. And no one put you on a pedestal, no one looked down on you. You were exactly the same. Like everyone was exactly the same. We worked together, we worked hard. It didn't matter if you were a guy or a girl, like everyone was at the library, everyone was studying overtime. Everyone was putting in the effort because engineering is hard and physics is hard. And like all these classes, they demand a lot of you. As I'm sure most university classes do. But it because it takes a lot of you. Like we were studying together, men, women, it didn't matter, and you just felt supported. And there was no issue. At no point in my bachelor degree did I feel as an outsider. I didn't feel like I was the odd one out. And I'm not saying everything is perfect. Well, in bachelor degree, we were 50-50. In masters, we were more, when I did my masters, we were actually more women than men. When I did my PhD, we were again about 50-50. So that's great, but still there aren't a lot of women in high positions. Still there aren't a lot of women professors. There aren't a lot of women who get tenure in engineering. When I got one of the scholarships, one of the guys said, "Oh, it was that women's scholarship, right?" Because there were scholarships specifically for women to encourage women. I was like, no, it was a regular scholarship. Like, why are you looking down on my scholarship? How dare you? I worked hard for it. I deserve it. I publish papers. I work hard. Like, don't you dare dismiss me getting a scholarship just because you think I got some favor because I'm a woman. And I really like let him hear it, which is something I never would have done when I was just starting out. But slowly I found my footing, I found my voice, and he apologized. He still apologizes till this day. He knows what he said, it was wrong, um, and yeah, so he took it back, and he knows better now. But that's still an issue, and I think that's because like women when they go to these scientific classes, sometimes they encounter those issues with time, with support, with knowing there are more women with you that go through it. You find your voice, you find your footing, and you dare to speak out, and you dare to try and do better, and you fight for it. And like we can complain about not and for that there aren't enough women in STEM. We can complain about it a lot, but the fact is that before what the guys do, we have to be there, right? We have to choose again, only if you want to, only if you like it, studying that. But it's on us first to choose to study it. There can be women in STEM. Women choose not to go to STEM, and it's very hard. And it's hard to study. It's hard to go against what the people around you say to you. It's hard to go against what your like your friends, your family, your social group, what they tell you. It can be very difficult. I'm not like dismissing that in any way, but I'm saying the responsibility. The way I see it, the responsibility is first with us. Um, and I want to give you time for a question. So I want to finish my little story. After I got back to the gala, and right before it started, I was sitting outside, and the person from NASA came to speak to me. And that person from NASA, I didn't mention before, but she's a brilliant, incredibly smart, is a brilliant engineer, a brilliant physicist. She's a woman, and she is also a Muslim and that wears like traditional clothes, and she's like a complete badass, and everyone like looks up to her, and everyone like you can see all these people like sucking up to her. She's really important. She's again so smart. I've been to so many of her lectures. She's completely brilliant, and she's someone like I looked up to. I still look up to, and and she came to me, and I was so excited that she knew me, that she was there, and she came to me and she said, "You did a very nice presentation. That was really interesting. I can't believe what that guy said." She was like really angry on my behalf, and then we got talking, and we really like talked about stuff, and then she said, "Listen, I'm actually one of the organizers of the conference. Not this one, but I was the organizer of the previous one. I'm going to be in 2 years. I'm going to be again, and I want to know what your thoughts. Like, how can we improve the position of women in STEM?" And she told me that we're doing a project to give some of the women who were at the conference a reward, $100 reward. And she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think that's a terrible idea. Because all it does, you don't, like, the women are already here. You're giving money to women that are already here. So you don't, like, bring in new people. They're already here. And you're creating antagonism with the men, which then results in people saying exactly the same as that guy said to me, like, oh, you got that scholarship because you're a girl. So you got that award because you're a girl. And it doesn't solve anything. It's just like, what's $100? Like, you get that money, and it doesn't. It's not even an award. It's not even a prize. It's just money. Money doesn't solve every problem. And so we sat down, me and her, and we came up with a plan how to improve the position of women in STEM under this conference. So, for example, like I said, we need more women in power. We need more women invited speakers. Why are most of the speakers men? In conferences, you have invited speakers and you have regular speakers. So invited speakers is the conference approaching them and saying, "Please come do a presentation with us at our conference." And at that conference, most of the people were white men, and there's no reason for that. The whole point of an academic community is diversity, diversity in opinion, diversity in research, diversity in people. So why not make sure that that diversity is present at the conference, and why not make sure that the people that you choose to invite show that diversity that exists? I'm not saying make up a diversity, but the fact is that there are women researchers that deserve that recognition. So why not say, "Oh, I see your research. I'm giving you a platform to present it because what you do is valuable. What you have to say is valuable." So we decided, like, we really worked on it to have more invited women speakers, to have more invited from different ethnicities, not just from the US and Western Europe, but to have more from Asia, more from the Middle East, more from Africa, like more from everywhere. It's possible to do it. All you have to do is think about it for 5 seconds, and then you can make it happen. We also started a women like get together and like send emails to one another, so that you have that support, so you don't feel alone, so you have someone to connect to. And I think that's what I want to send with you the most. Whether you find yourself in a place that, and no matter what you study, whether you find yourself in a place that has a lot of people like you, or whether you don't, it can go either way. Sometimes you find yourself drowning, even when your whole department is exactly the same as you. And sometimes you find friends even if the whole place isn't like you, and you find like support from your professors, from your peers. But sometimes you need someone, and we are all lucky that we have a community here. We have Army Academia. We have friends online. Army is such a family, and we are all here for one another. So you can find support. There are so many female in STEM here among us, and you can always reach out, and I'm sure no one will turn you away. You can always find whether you need just to vent or you want to ask questions, advice. You can see here with Army Academia just how amazing these people are, and you have that support system. So that shouldn't deter you from studying what you want to study. If you want to go for this, if you want to put in the effort to study STEM, you have a support system. Okay? My DMs are always open. You can always contact me. I'm always here. Even if you think of a question later or you decide to study something and you want advice, like turn to me, turn to a million other like doctors or teachers or engineers. We are here. You can find us very easily on Twitter, I'm sure, and you have that support. So don't let a lack of support be the reason why you don't choose STEM. Okay, we need more women in STEM to make this an equal ground. We need more smart, educated female women in these top in these subjects because we're badass and we can do it, and there's no reason not to, right? We're the same. We're smart. We're creative. We're innovative. We can do it. So don't let anyone tell you you can't, and don't let the lack of support be the reason why you don't. And that's all I have to say. I think so. If anyone has any questions, Bianca can help us.
Yes, thank you so much, Omer. Honestly, that was so empowering, like in every way possible. I really love that, especially like putting your experiences with all this, with the situation still nowadays, regarding equality amongst, like, men and women and such. So yeah, it's honestly, we truly appreciate that you have opened up to us to such extent. So honestly, thank you. And well, everyone, now we have a comment here from Aska saying that was so inspirational. So yes, that is true. She is absolutely correct on that. Oh, guys, by the way, if you have any questions that you would like to ask her regarding anything, I mean, whether other experience that she might have had, or also about STEM, if anything about the program overall, go ahead and ask. Feel free to. Um, and yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can write it in the chat, or you can also say it through the mic if you would like to speak. So, I think we should wait,
Yeah.
just in case.
Sorry, take your time.
Yes, take your time, guys. But nonetheless.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
I was wondering, I'm not sure how much research you would do in your field, but like I'm definitely want to go into like a research-based science. I don't know if it's going to be like neuroscience or like astronomy yet. I'm kind of trying to decide. But I was wondering like if you have anything to say about like trying to find research opportunities as like a woman, especially in like different teams, and trying to find like any like teams that are like run by women.
That's a great question. I think like for bachelor degree, like I don't know at what point you are in, like, are you a bachelor doing your bachelor or thinking?
Oh, I'm applying to college still, so I'm going to be into my undergraduate. So bachelor.
Like you, like I knew even before that I was thinking of taking the research route, and that I didn't just want to be an engineer or something. I want research. I want more in depth, and preferably something that I can actually touch and hands on. Um, but I knew I wanted research, and I think in bachelor degree it's still a tad bit soon. I think maybe in the last year of bachelor degree you can find research teams. Like I'm sure it's different all in everywhere in the world, but in bachelor you usually only in the last year really get to see some research uh, probabilities and go into teams. I do suggest if that's something you want to take to look to see if there are jobs applications. Like it's usually not in the first year, but starting in the second year, you can find different research teams that look for students that are cheap labor, and then you get to experience different fields and see if that research team is someone that is something that if they do something that's interesting to you. So I really suggest doing that to see if there are job openings in research teams. And when you go to find a research, I just talked to, because I knew I was going to stay at my university, I didn't want to switch to a different one, which in my country it's very common to do, like it's completely fine if you do your bachelor, your master's, and your PhD all in the same university. It's not that common everywhere, but here it's very, very common. However, like for PhD, we have to do it somewhere else. Like we have to do it at a different country, not just a different university. But because for me, I knew I wanted to stay at my university, so I just talked to every professor in my department and in some adjacent departments, and I asked them, what do you do? What's your research? What are you, like, what, and not just what's your research, but it's best if you find out if they have funding as well. Because at the end of the day, you gotta get some money, you got to pay bills. When you're a master's student, you're no longer, it's different. You need more money to live off. So sometimes you already have like, you already get married, you already have kids. Again, here we start school really late, so a lot of people, when they have masters, they're already starting to maybe build a family. So you need that extra funding. So making sure that that group has funding, that their research is something that's interesting to you, that in general the group publishes papers. Make sure that the research group actually does valuable research. And the way to do that is to see if they publish papers. If the professor doesn't publish papers, don't go there. It means that their research is either stagnant or that or that he's not a good professor, that he doesn't know how to catapult what he's researching into something that's actually productive, that has a point at the end. Like not everything has to be applicable, but everything has to, at the end of the day, like you research to find something out. So if you can't find that something out, then what was the point of all the research? And you'll just find yourself getting very bitter and not moving forward. Because at the end of the day, your resume is what you publish, what scholarship you get, and the name of your advisor. Because very few of us actually manage to work while doing actual research. So I strongly suggest you know what, like after finding a research that you like, finding an advisor that actually publishes has to be the second thing, because otherwise it's stagnant and it won't help you in the future. It will just stop you. And you also can get very bitter. Like I had friends who went to this really, really, really sweet, nice professor. He's really like the nicest man you could ever think of. He's so kind. He's so caring. He cares about students. He goes with them on field trips. Just like he really likes hiking. So he does like these hiking trips, and then you get like to bond with them, with him and like with other people. And he's super nice. He is the worst advisor that I've ever seen. Like everyone that goes to him gets so depressed, just completely. They finish the masters and they leave him because he just doesn't help them academically. And your advisor, whether it's a man or woman, they're like your academic parent. They're supposed to nurture you. They're supposed to help you to help you grow as a person, as a researcher. So if that person doesn't do that for you, then they're not a good parent. They're not a good academic parent, and you have to have a good academic parent. That's the most important thing. So yeah, so find a research that interests you, find an advisor that can help you. And again, like the easiest way to find that out is to see how much they publish. Because if they publish a lot and their students' name are on the papers, then that helps you. And then try to make sure that he actually has money to pay. So yeah, that's my advice for choosing a team to research. And in your bachelor, I would search for a job if there are job applications in research teams, so you could get some hands-on experience and see for yourself what kind of research options are there. I hope this helped.
Thank you.
Nice. All right. Anybody else would like to ask something? I am guessing there is no question.
Well, like I said, you can always reach out. My DMs are open.
Awesome. All right. Well, you can share if you like. You can share your handle, your Twitter handle, in the chat so they know, and also your podcast in case you would like to hear about it. And also, guys, we're taking it online. Oh, wait. Give me one moment.
So in the meantime, I'll shamelessly plug something if you don't mind. Like Bianca said, I have a podcast on the Planet Army YouTube channel, and all the revenue that channel makes goes directly to the combat. So if you guys want to watch the clips there, you can find their interviews with Research BTS, with Nicole, with the one in an army brigade, with Brian Raleigh from Forbes, with Brian Patrick Byron from who's also an army and also a journalist. There's a lot more coming. There's some really cool stuff coming on the podcast, but all the revenue from that is going directly to help fund the comeback. I know a lot of us are kind of short on cash. We really tried our best with Dynamite. We really used every cent we could. And in addition, with the whole COVID situation and everything, so I know we're all financially strained. So just so you know, every dime that podcast makes, that channel makes, goes directly to the comeback. So if you want to check it out, it's called Planet Army. And
Planet Army.
Yeah.
Yes. And well, if you also want to put, your podcast channel here, just go ahead. Just make sure that on the tab over there it says everyone. You see where it says two?
Yeah.
Everyone. And this is it, guys. We are finally on the end of this segment. I'd like to thank Omer for joining us and giving us her experience and inspirational just overall trajectory in this program so far, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more. And thank you so much for coming. Just remember to make sure to if you have Twitter, of course, to tag us and tell us your experience about the segment and just the event so far. And you can use the hashtag ARTC2020. Okay, and we're gonna be, creeping around and retweeting and everything. So hey, just go ahead. And of course, you have already Omer's Twitter handle and her podcast on YouTube and such. So go ahead and follow her as well. Why not? And this is all for the night. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Hi, it was nice talking to you.
Thank you so much. All right, so bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, good night.
어쩜 네가 내 표정이 이토록 다른다